I'm Melissa Rosenthal. I am the co-founder of Outlever. We turn companies into the number one news source in their industry, allowing them to own the conversations that they care about and their customers care about at scale. My journey has been pretty interesting. I started off in digital media very early. I was the number 10 employee at BuzzFeed. I went to go then help start a company called Cheddar, which is a live streaming news network that runs from the New York Stock Exchange floor. It was kind of the first post-cable network, which is very interesting. We had really placed our bets on cord cutting, which now I don't really know anyone that has cable in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, we kind of were very ahead of that trend and wanted to reinvent the way that people watched live news. I then moved to SaaS, which I guess will then be my WTF moment. I moved to SaaS and ran marketing at ClickUp for about 4 years. Yeah, really helped build the brand into becoming a household name and humanizing productivity through, fun and entertaining marketing and advertising.
How did that move come about, ClickUp? Is it ClickUp is a SaaS firm you moved into, right?
Yeah. So I had been about 10 years in media, and I saw like a lot of, it's also kind of why I started Outlever, but very early on, it was very interesting to me. We're building these media companies. We're spending lots of money running them. It was, our entire product wasn't a product. The product was content, and we're doing that to sell into advertisers. And, really to give them our voice, to allow them to, piggyback onto the authority and the credibility that we had built and the trusted audiences that we had built. And I always thought, even like early on, I was like, I mean, the model was working. We were doing tons of revenue. Things were going really well. But I was always wondering, is this long term? Are these companies going to be able to sustain revenue based on just advertising? And also, why aren't companies themselves like able to do this? Why can't they just build this themselves? And obviously, that's like a very contrarian view when you have Forbes and Entrepreneur and Inc. and all these big digital publishers then and Vice and like, they're in their roaring heyday of what that was. And, at the end of BuzzFeed for me, I spent 6 years there. At the end of that, I sort of started to see like cracks in like what the revenue models were, things that like just didn't feel very congruent with like longevity. Also, Facebook, while we thought they were friend to us, they were sort of the rails in which our content sat on and was distributed on. We started to show cracks. We weren't featured as much in the news feeds. Our social traffic had been down a little bit. Facebook was starting to incentivize people to share more content, really focus with friends and family, like connecting rather than just a place to share like viral content or social content. And this wasn't like a huge red flag at that time to anyone else, except I just didn't feel very good about it. And
Yeah.
my move to Cheddar was, I'm like, all right, well, I'll still be in media. Fine. Good. I like media. It's fun. It's cool. It's inventive. It's really where people come to get news. And Cheddar was, different because we were like, all right, well, we're going to do deals with how we're going to make money is we're going to do deals with all of the news streaming services. And they're going to pay us 5 cents per subscriber, the same way that cable pays ESPN 10 cents per subscriber to, anyone that has a cable bundle. And this is the legacy way that media companies get paid. And we're like, awesome. We're just going to kind of like slide in there and take that revenue, and it's going to be easy win for us. And that is not what streaming services wanted. They were like, no, we're not going to pay you for your content. You're going to give it to us for free, and then we'll let you advertise against it, and we'll give you a percentage of that. And it's like very quickly overnight, this kind of foolproof model of how we were going to like slide in there and steal that revenue from the legacy networks and do it for a fraction of a percentage of what they were getting, and how it was going to seem like a great deal to like YouTube and Fubo and DirecTV and like all these really big players, which would have been like, overnight, that would have been 50 million, $100 million in revenue. It would have been amazing. That subscription revenue, and it like really like, minimal cost to get that revenue. That wasn't the case. That was sort of like this big, like, oh God moment for me. That was like, shit. So we went back to the drawing board and we created an amazing advertising model and got that up to 50 million in revenue. And then we sold the company for 200 million in 3 years. So pretty good outcome. But the reality was,
Sorry, this is ClickUp or Cheddar?
This is Cheddar. This is Cheddar. I'm kind
Yeah,
of
sorry.
explaining like how I got to ClickUp.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then when we exited, I was just like, well, I can't do that again. Like we thought we
Right.
had a way of kind of reinventing what that looked like so that we could get out of the advertising model, and like that didn't work. So I was like, I'm done with media. I'm done with publishing. I don't know where it's headed, but it's not headed in a good direction. And I think every company that's in it currently is going to die. And that's what happened. But
Yeah.
I made the pivot to SaaS because I wanted to have a real product, a product that was sticky, that had a viral coefficient, that had a real use for it, that people had to go into because it mattered to them in their workday, in their worlds. It played a role, and content never really did that. It was commoditized, and I wanted a real revenue stream outside of advertising, and I wanted to be able to advertise and market really great products and not have the content be the product itself.
Yeah. How did you find the transition though?
Hard, really hard. Moving from media to SaaS I mean, it's a completely different industry. The acronyms alone were like, years worth of, what is it, SaaS Webster Dictionary. It was tough. It was tough to learn all that stuff in like a truncated amount of time to be able to like get up to speed and be able to like step right in and own it. A lot of the things I learned within my days of media were applicable, which is really nice. Like I could bring over a lot of my skill set, but then there was a whole other half of that skill set that I needed to like just learn from scratch because I had no idea what SaaS was or what that industry was about. And there was a big learning curve. So I really had to kind of dive in and teach myself a lot about that.
Yeah. What was your role exactly at ClickUp?
Running marketing and brand.
From seeing and engaging with the content that you've shared, it seems to me that whilst you were at ClickUp, that you were kind of always emphasizing the need to make brands feel human, and specifically so within B2B.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested, like, is that something that you kind of did yourself at ClickUp? Like, when did you feel like, okay, this completely needs to change? When you
Yeah, I mean they were kind of a blank slate. Like they had a lot of like really happy users and customers. They had a very vibrant look to, some of the assets in the site and the coloring and the logo. I didn't design the logo. And our CEO, Zeb, is like a very vibrant guy. He wears just like incredibly vibrant shirts, colorful. He's got a really big personality. And yeah, I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to BuzzFeedify like SaaS. And I was like, if they'll let me do this, I know I can do this really well. I'm like, there's no other company in SaaS that really focuses on the humanity within the people of who their customers actually are and the things that connect them to life and product and their worlds, right? And I think humanizing is just like, can we talk to them and have water cooler conversations about the things that like hard but laughable, right? Like, and BuzzFeed taught me all of that. It was like, how do people connect with things and why? So I tried to bring all of that over and apply that, and turns out the same principles apply even if you're selling a product. The same things still resonate. Obviously there's top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. You're still creating the content where like when they're ready to buy, you're listing out all the value, all the props, everything that the company and the product brings to the table. That's a very important part of the funnel here that in media didn't apply, but there's a whole other part of the funnel that you have to utilize to connect with them and get them to know you exist in the first place.
For me, like, I feel like you're very forward thinking, like in this space, like you're very like influential with this idea within B2B marketing. But our like Dojo, we literally create content for B2B SaaS firms. That's kind of our niche. And like, from my experience, still the majority of businesses in this space, like the way they're set up internally is like, they're not approaching content with this in mind. Like, it's still very much like, this is our product and these are the benefits and like, these are the cool features and this is the problems it solves. But it's all done in this kind of like, business. We do. This is the thing. It's so like, it's transactional. It's just like, and now that everybody is able to make content and everybody thinks they can just, we'll just make our own in-house content and keep pushing out. It's just like getting lost, and no one cares and no one responds to it. So what I want to specifically ask you is like, What advice do you have for marketers aiming to make an impact with the work that they're doing?
I think the reality is like if you stick like you see this like even more now. So the differentiation between products is like this much. I mean, and you're competing on price, maybe you're competing on a couple features, but like with AI, like it's really tough out there. Like I can't imagine like marketing now today. Like you either have to have $100 million to market, just like throw yourself out there, or you have to be really creative and differentiated. So I think marketers that are just expecting to make a huge dent and see like enormous exponential growth by doing the same things that they've done with like no way of standing out. Like I don't know. That sounds like, you know, the definition of insanity to me. And I think that they just have to think a little bit more about like how do you like what is going on in the day to day of the people that you're trying to target, right? And think about that more of like, these are people. Like they have lives, they have struggles at work, they're engineers, they're this, they're that. And I don't care if they're enterprise, I don't care if they're mid-market, I don't care if they're SMB, they're all dealing with things. And, you know, one example for like what we did at ClickUp was the fact that, you know, we were like, our ICP was pretty much everyone. It was like, you know, engineers, agencies, marketing managers, project managers. So we were trying to have conversations with everyone. And I'm not an engineer, I'm not a dev. So we did a lot of research and we were like, how do we create content that just like connects with devs? And we went into Reddit and we like just like spent like 2 days just like looking at Reddit, looking at forums, and we're like, they hate Jira. They were just like really upset about Jira all the time. We were like, this is kind of a perfect opportunity for us to like capitalize on the fact that they just like Jira is like literally the blocker in like every part of these people's jobs. And that's why we decided to make a campaign against Jira, because we're like, okay, if we can humanize this, make fun of it, like almost treat it like a Saturday Night Live skit geared towards engineers, I think we'll win. Like that's what it was. It was like the idea room was like, let's create Saturday Night Live for devs. And break that up and actually make them commercials, make them ads, make them like, you know, shareable social viral content, and have that content find that community, because I think that community needs it. And they never see themselves and they never see their problems humanized and like personified the way that we're thinking about it. And that was like our approach to doing that.
I mean, that feels a bit more like a media background approach anyway. It's like thinking about creating a channel and actually going out and trying to work out what people are doing with their lives at the moment and what they like, what they're laughing at, what they're frustrated with. Like that's how
I mean,
how you approach good content, but it just isn't how you approach. Like I feel like marketing and B2B, they don't have that kind of process. My camera's gone all whiffy, but whatever, it'll come back in a second.
I mean, I think like it's like built into my brain to think that way, right? Like I've been like trained on like a model of like thinking like that for 10 years of my career. So the only way I think is like that, which now has great benefits, I believe. Like, you know, in the company that I'm running now, like this is how we think about it too. It's a different model. It's a different way of approaching it, but it's still like our approach is very human. And I think marketers become robots a bit, and they can't get out of their own way because they're surrounded by this like groupthink and this echo chamber of we have to produce a white paper, we have to produce this, we have to gate this webinar, and it's like sure, like that could be a part of it, but you're not going to win that way.
Do you know Rory Sutherland? Does that name mean anything to you? I think he's
I do not.
He's really big in the UK, but like marketing and advertising. I can't remember the quote, the speech word for word. I'll definitely send it to you like over the weekend though. But like he's basically done this thing and he talks about like marketers and we're in this kind of like race to the bottom. It's like nobody is thinking about the opportunity of doing something differently. Rather they're thinking about doing the same thing that somebody else has done it, but how do we do it more efficiently for less money? And it's just like
beautiful.
But also, you know, you've got like there's marketing, but you know, I've got some marketing customers of mine who are like quite creative and they're like they want to do something different, but then finance come and they're like no, and then somebody else above them says no, and then brand say no, and it's like
it's
guys,
it's
like but if we do the same as everybody else, it's gonna be like you say, like and now with the explosion of content and AI, it's like my inbox has got like 3,000 emails and 3,000 pieces of content. It's all the same thing. Like none of it. It's all the same. It's just noise.
Also, like feature parity is like at an all-time high too. Like a company that might have taken 4 years to build, you can build in 6 months. So how do you compete on the same models when the rate of building is just like explosive? And I mean, totally agree. It's like it's really wild. I think like CMOs are afraid for sure. Like they're afraid for their jobs. It's funny. They fear becoming like irrelevant and replaceable, but then they do the same things to try to not do that. And it's sort of like, it's just a revolving door of marketers these days. It's like, they're in for a year, they're out. They're in for a year, they're out. That person tells you you got a bad haircut. They do the same thing, then they're out. I don't know. I mean, I speak to marketers like all day, every day. And I ask them, like, what are you focused on? What are your initiatives? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's something different you're doing? There's nothing, it's really wild. I'm like, I haven't heard one new thing, one new idea, one new way of thinking in the year that I've been running this. So it's pretty,
it's crazy. I mean, I think we're fortunate. We're kind of, we are finding some people out there who are willing to do things differently. But I mean, when I look at like the B2B SaaS space and the brands in it, like there's not many brands that the average person on the street, if you stop someone in the street and say, name me 5 B2B SaaS brands, like there's not many, but the ones that you do know, that I guarantee the reason why you know them is because they're the only ones that have made any kind of humorous, fun, engaging content that's relevant. That's like,
or they're big, they're bold, they're out there, they're talking. You know, they're doing the right things. They have a good flywheel of how they think about personalized marketing. Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest mistakes companies make then right now in building their brands?
They're not. They're not. They think brands are sort of built by themselves by just doing. And that's true to like a very like to an extent. I made a post about this the other day. I think there's different, like at different stages of different company size, you do different things, right? Like we're self-funded, you know, we're doing significant revenue, but we're not going to go out there and like spend X amount of money building brand right now. Brand is built through our customers, through referrals, through great interactions, through happy customers, through our motion working, and through my LinkedIn content, period. That's like where we are. But when you're VC backed and you're expecting, you know, 100% year over year growth, and you have targets on your back, and you need to differentiate because there's 10 other people doing the same thing in the same space, like you have to do something differently, and you have to start to build brand. And brand is a flywheel of 1,000 tiny decisions every day and moving fast. I think also just like companies block themselves by not being able to move fast. There's like, you know, a CEO that needs to approve every minor detail of every single thing, and no decision can ever be made. I mean, I feel like it's weird saying that, but like, I think that's very like, it's just like, it's meeting overload, it's decision overload. It's like everyone has a say on this, so we're not going to make a decision. Oh, we're going to punt that. Like then nothing happens. Like nothing ends up happening, or you make very small moves that have micro wins, and you're like, we did this. But building brand is large scale, like always on, going, firing every day. You know, I think it just like people need to move faster. They need to think differently. And I think a lot of the models that they're relying on are just going to break.
The point there you just said about speed, I couldn't agree with you more on that bit. And like where some of the things you're referencing here, and something I picked up on earlier as well, is actually leads me to my next question, which is weirdly I've written it, but like we've kind of just said it. But the thing I've written down here is like a lot of creatives and marketing people at the moment like want to be fearless, right? But decision making by committee is rife, right? So I had a question for you, which is basically like, what advice do you have for marketers that are wanting to do something cool that isn't the shit normal way of doing it, but they're struggling with leadership? I mean, like, what can they do? What can they say without getting fired?
Yeah, I think it's like,
it's tough.
It's tough. Yeah. I mean, I would not have joined ClickUp if I thought that was going to be my blocker, like getting things approved. Like Zeb was really on board with like going fast.
Zeb is your like founder or something that you're working with?
Zeb Evans is the CEO of ClickUp. So he's the founder and CEO of ClickUp. So when I interviewed to run everything, for run brand marketing, just like they were vetting it was a fit. I'm like, I can't do what I do best if like this is going to be an insane approval process, if we're not going to be able to get things out the door. He was like, ship everything fast. Even if he didn't love a piece of creative or love a piece of brand, he was like, ship it. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. And like, that is exactly the mindset that you need to build. Look, I mean, the company's worth, $6 billion today. Like there's a reason. It's because he gets things done. He gets things out the door. He doesn't block his people internally. He allows them to experiment. He allows them to take big bets and do bold things. And it's a $6 billion company. You can't argue with that. Like there's a reason why it got that way. And for marketers today, I'm like, there was also a marketer I was talking to. They're a multi-billion dollar company. They're publicly listed, but their growth has stalled. And it's because they never focused on building brand. They're sort of very well known within the small community that they're known, and it's big enough to obviously be a multi-billion-dollar company, a public one, but they can't grow anymore. So now they're starting to do brand. They're starting to go out the door. So it's something that will always catch up with you, whether you think you need it now or you don't. It's definitely, there's brand debt, and it shows at some point in the cycle of the company's, lifespan.
Yeah.
But I think it's, I don't know. I mean, I think it really does come from the top down. Like if you have marketers that are like, let them experiment, let them do, if your leadership, like let them try things. And if they're not working, let them figure out how to pivot. And if they don't pivot, then obviously like maybe that's not the right fit. That's not the right person for you. They should have to own that things don't work and figure out how to resolve that. Right. But you have to let people take chances on stuff. I mean, I don't, it's really tough for me to give advice to someone that's in a role that's like convinced leadership. You can come to the table with all the data in the world, but if that person is risk averse and they don't trust themselves enough to make decisions, that's tough. That's a tough thing to have to come up against.
Yeah. I've actually got the type of businesses that we're working with tend to be sort of, I don't know, we don't really work with businesses sort of like pre-seed, but we're kind of like Series A up to like IPO essentially. I mean, we do some work with like Salesforce and Google, but predominantly we're looking to work with those businesses that are in that sort of like hyper growth phase.
Growth stage, yeah.
And it's interesting because I won't name them, but I have a couple of customers where the founder or the founders are like very on board with like allowing marketing or brand to do their thing, and it's like better to do something not perfectly than not do something kind of vibe. It's just like, just do it. And if it fails, fuck it. Like we'll change it and move on. I have a couple of other customers where one of them is just like, that top team are just like, no, we don't even believe in brand. Wishy-washy creative nonsense, no numbers. Like you can't present it to me, can't if you can't present this to me with data and everything, we're not doing it. And actually like a couple of heads of brand that I work with, they've just quit their jobs and like left. And so to your point, actually, the advice maybe the advice is like, you need to have a conversation and look at like, can you do anything within your role right now? And if you can't, maybe actually the advice is you need to look for another job elsewhere, or like go somewhere else.
Same exact experience, actually. Like we have customers who are like, yes, they bring it to leadership. Honestly, they move within a week. And then there's a few that they've been like, this is the way forward. Like what you guys are doing at Outlever is like 100%, we have to do this. Like, I don't see any other path where we do it. And then they're like, I think I'm going to leave my job because the fact that leadership doesn't want to move forward with this is just a bigger signal that like nothing is going to change here. And they've like quit their jobs. I think that's like, maybe that's a good thing. Like I feel like, if I can help people like leave and find the company that allows them to like get stuff done. What if it's a byproduct of like the fact that we're doing something cool? But yeah, I think that's like, if things aren't going to change and leadership really just doesn't want to do anything new, like that's like an inherent like problem that's like embedded within that company. And I don't think it's ever going to change.
Yeah, I agree. I think my advice is, if you're stuck and you can't do something different, then leave. I don't know, maybe not. Depends. Depends what else is going on in life. I'm curious. You're clearly like very creative. Like, where do you go for inspiration though? Like, where do you look for creative inspiration?
Kind of like, where do I look for creative inspiration? I think I look like when I'm focused on something like building this company, the inspiration like goes through like a funnel, right? I speak to people every day. I speak to marketers. I get ideas. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I sort of have a brain filter that filters into the good and out the bad. And I'm able to like suction in some really good stuff that I take away. And I'm like, we should do that. We should do that. And I think that's sort of how it is. It's between my co-founder and my colleagues and my employees at our company and LinkedIn. And then the people I talk to daily that are within the field. And that's sort of like the space. I feel like there's sometimes like inspiration overload where you like actually need to have a filter for it, because you can't, like, inspiration should like land where it should land. And I think over time I've become good at figuring out what should inspire me at what periods in my career, right? Like, I don't want to take inspiration and be like, that sounds amazing. And then like, it's a complete detractor from like where I should be headed within what stage I am now and where we should be with product and everything that we're doing. But then there's like the bigger ideas that I filter for later. But yeah, it's a mix of just my world that I'm in. I'm talking to people all the time, which is very inspiring. And my co-founder and my people that I work with, LinkedIn and channels and seeing what else people are up to and what people are doing.
Yeah. All right. Look, I'm some of that community on LinkedIn seems to be like shared space. So Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like really cringe stuff on there too. So it's a nice mix of inspirational and really, really cringy. So
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's yeah.
and then and then and then
I
after
haven't yet worked out how to filter that stuff out. Like it's
yeah,
just it
well,
is what it is right
the
now.
filter is when there's too much cringe and my brain starts to explode. I just shut my laptop and I walk away and I take a walk around the block and then I'm like, all right, like enough of that for a minute. Need some like brain space and fresh air. But
Yeah. Yeah, funny. Is there a marketing trend right now that you think is like overrated and a marketing trend that's underrated?
okay, a marketing trend that I think is overrated is making long form, really bad, like movie style content that people internally thought was really funny or a good idea that is not. Like, you can't create a 20-minute movie. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. Like, that's just not, no one's watching that.
This is like you're talking about like B2B brands
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe some people really like it. I haven't seen the data on it, so I don't want to speak from like pure is this performing? Maybe it is. I cannot see your ICP sitting down and watching like a 20-minute movie. I just can't. I don't know. So I'll leave it at
Well, I
that.
mean,
Mic drop.
I personally haven't bothered
Have-
watching any of those, so but I don't know what the
Like
rest of
you've
the
lost me at 20 minutes, you know? You've
Yeah,
like
yeah.
completely. Like I'm not even going to start it because it's 20 minutes long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair. I've seen WhatsApp did a couple actually of not so long ago that I saw, but well, I say I saw them. I
Movies?
didn't watch them all. Yeah, yeah. Well, like, so, yeah, I mean, like they pushed out. I don't know if it was in the US, but in the UK, they pushed out like a partnership with Lewis Hamilton and like Formula One and Mercedes.
That's
team.
a
They did,
little
like,
different. That's different. That's
But-
different. I want to say that's completely different. I would watch that all day because it's F1 and Lewis Hamilton, and I have a deep interest
Well, that's
in
the
that.
point, though, I guess. It's like that's more like
That's actual
sponsored
film.
long.
That's
That's sponsored, but it's sponsored long form content, right? That's actually
Fine.
that's actually a story about Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
and it's just sponsored by WhatsApp.
yeah, great.
Rather
Awesome.
than
That is
like,
so-
here's a 20-minute film about WhatsApp, which I would not watch, even if it was Lewis Hamilton showing me how he uses WhatsApp. I'm just.
a very important distinction, I think.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever received in your professional career?
Two things. One is nothing is impossible, which I really do agree. And don't take no for an answer.
I have come from a sort of maybe a more like sales driven background, but you know, within video and creative. But yeah, I think people give up far too easily. And all of the best things are on the other side of no. I mean, even what we're talking about now in terms of like pushing the boundaries of creative, doing things differently, like you're always going to get resistance to change.
Yeah,
or
and
to,
also,
like,
I mean,
your
like,
thing.
you know,
But you got to keep pushing that somehow.
Yeah,
Phrase it in a different way. Try again.
Yeah, and expect it to be painful. Like I think it
Yeah.
can be painful, and it sometimes it really is. But the best, what you said, it's like the best is on the other side of now. So
Yeah. We kind of started, I guess, with a bit of a like what the fuck moment, which you had sort of, I think you kind of said it was basically making the move from media to SaaS.
yeah.
If you could go back to that moment, what would you say to yourself now with hindsight?
You made the right decision. Like, good call. I mean, like, media is completely collapsed. Like, Vice went bankrupt. BuzzFeed is like, you know, stock is at an all-time low. All of those other companies went completely out of business. Forbes, and every day you read that they're cutting their staff by 30 to 50%. Yeah, I think it's like, well, good call. I'm glad you listened to your gut because your gut was right. And good thing you didn't listen to the noise around you or anyone trying to like persuade you to stay in that industry because that industry was a garbage fire.
I mean, at the time though, like that's amazing. But like at the time, did you have any like, were you nervous at all? Did you have any doubts about moving or whether it was the right thing, or you kind of felt like now is the right time because you'd seen what was happening anyway?
I mean, my gut told me, like my brain, my gut, my heart was screaming, like, get the hell out of this. But I mean, my entire network and everyone I knew and everyone I was connected with to get a job was in media. Like I could have taken probably a very, very high level media job that would have been like CEO or, you know, I was interviewing for CEO roles of media companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those were very well paying, insanely well paying. But the promise of like where that industry was headed just seemed like it was just headed for the bottom. It was scary because I didn't know anyone in SaaS. I had no connections. I didn't grow up in Silicon Valley. I had no Silicon Valley connections. I didn't know VCs. So, I was being, it was a time that SaaS was growing. So people were doing outreach to me that found my background interesting, but I didn't have that SaaS background that, like I had no network. I had no network in SaaS. I had no knowledge of the industry.
But you do now.
I do now, and it's
Yeah.
great. It was the best move I ever made. Like also like SaaS is a really interesting industry, and I think there are really great companies doing really cool things out there. Yep, I couldn't be happier that I made that transition. It was the best decision of my entire career and my entire life, honestly. Well, outside of like getting married and like finding my partner and like all that stuff. I don't want to say it's like the best decision of my life because like that is.
From afar, I mean, I honestly, I do genuinely mean this. I think like the world of SaaS needs more people like you coming into it as well from like other industries. I think it's nice to see change and like refreshing views and like creativity and like and all of that.
Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of like, I think it definitely, and hopefully we see this more with now like everything we kind of just chatted about with differentiation at like an all-time low and being funneled back into companies. Like companies are raising a lot now. So maybe we find this middle ground of like, hey, we need to break the mold. I would be so excited to start to see companies like really going big with like building brand in like a cool way. And yeah, it's always like, wow, that's awesome. Like I want to feel like that every day when I see a company and doing their advertising, especially in the B2B space.
Well, look, I've really enjoyed having the time to chat with you. I've got one more question to
Yeah.
finish off with, which is finish this sentence. Success.
Feeling like you don't work a day in your life.
I like that. Yeah, okay. I really like that. We've asked this to so many different people, and I think it's kind of like it feels like where it sits is kind of some sort of like state of mind. It's how you feel, and I kind of think that's the sort of territory you're in there.
Being
It's like
sad to go.
never
It's
working a
being
day in your
sad.
life is feeling is this perfect balance of
Yeah,
everything.
it's feeling sad to go to sleep and excited to wake up.
That's awesome. That's very positive. Good place